Hello, everybody. Thank you for being a part of something I'm sure that is going to take you on an emotional journey. I'm a bit of a numerologist before I begin anything, and I was asking Sir about his birthday just to get a peek into the person that he is, because numbers kind of sometimes are indicative. तो मैं आपके बारे में एक ही बात बता सकती हूँ सर, आप मेरी तरह नंबर 4 हैं, एंड 4 वाले बहुत ज़्यादा इमोशनल होते हैं. सो नाउ आई नो वेयर योर स्टोरी टेलिंग कम्स फ्रॉम, एंड नो वंडर when I seen Chiller Party, I was like, this movie should win all the awards. And I don't think it got the kind of recognition it needed. But before I get to that, thank you for doing this with us. I hope आज मैं ex चेंबूर से हूँ, तो आज हम खुल के बातें करेंगे.
Absolutely. No partiality to Chembur, but yes, soft corner for sure.
To begin with, I don't know how many of you are IITians or MBBS students here. Can I have your hands up in the air? Are there any engineers in here? Considering we all need a bit of IT.
I can see few hands there.
Few hands are up, yeah. ये होता क्या है जब आप IIT जाते हो कि आपके अंदर की क्रिएटिविटी निकल ही आती है. You were part of IIT Mumbai, and I'm sure that the student life that you managed to showcase and जो बच्चों की एक emotional journey आप दिखा पाते हैं, I'm sure it has a lot to do with your schooling and growing up days.
No, absolutely. I mean, the way I normally write or the kind of faces I normally look for in my movies, they all come from real life. So whether it was Chiller Party, was borrowed from part experiences of my IIT life because of the nicknames which the kids had, which kind of reflected in Chichore also, where all the nicknames, those were the actual nicknames. What you saw in Chichore, they were either my batchmates or juniors or seniors. They still are alive and kicking. All of them.
I want to meet Sexa. वो कहाँ है?
He's in US. His actual name is KG Ganesh. So.
Did he call you and say, "Hey, क्या किया मेरे character की?"
No, I actually sent messages to all of them saying, please allow me to take permission of using your name. And the funniest reply came from Raggy. Raggy is the antagonist. If you guys have seen Chichore, he's the S3 guy. He's my batchmate from metallurgy. I only use this name. He's the sweetest guy you can ever meet. But because I thought that Raggy name was very good, so I sent him a message saying, dude, I'm using your name as an antagonist in my movie, which is based on IIT life. He said, yeah, I don't care as long as you make him good looking. See, that was his reply. So, yeah.
The one thing, the common thread जो आपके हर फिल्म में मुझे लगता है, और वो है एक बच्चों का track. And what I love about it is that there is so much you can do there, but it's the biggest challenge. It's almost like you're telling yourself, IIT कर लिया, मैं कुछ भी कर सकता हूँ, बच्चों को लाओ, मैं उनको direct करूँगा. ये आप अपने आप को चैलेंज देते हैं, ये क्या है आपकी एक जो, I know it's a part of your story and it's a part of your storytelling, but it's tough. Is it not? आपके लिए मुश्किल नहीं होता है?
I swear, I don't make a very conscious choice to have important kid characters in my movies. Maybe I am actually quite attached to kids by nature since my very young days. But I think subconsciously they stay, and they have been a part of my cinematic journey in a very consistent manner. But there is absolutely no conscious choice. But yes, working with kids is actually very delightful also, but very challenging also. You need to know ways of getting them to do what you want them to do. By hook or by crook, you will cheat, you will do some things, you will manipulate, and you just have to get that out of those kids. And there are so many stories which I have, what all we did to get them to perform in Chiller Party. It was quite crazy.
Chiller Party शुरू करते हैं. मैं एक रेडियो जॉकी होने के नाते सर पहले तो आपसे बहुत खफा हूँ. आपने एक मर्द को लड़की की आवाज़ देख के हमारे साथ जुल्म कर लिया. बट एक आरजे का एक कैरेक्टर उसमें डालना. Would you say that radio has also been a part of your journey, because it is a sort of medium that I always feel was, is and will be. एक बहुत सारे लोग जो हमारे स्टूडियो में भी आते कहते हैं उनके घर पे बैकग्राउंड में रेडियो तो चलते रहता है. Could you tell us your early memories of radio and having that character? क्या सोचती?
See, my earliest memories of radio go back to my childhood when there was no TV. And we used to watch, we used to hear the cricket commentaries on radio. Now, I think that somewhere, radio has the power of a book. is what I can say, because you can't see. So you start visualizing, you know. Bina Ka Geet Wala was my favorite. You know, Amin Sayani and me and my Mausi used to be glued to our radio sets listening to Paidan number 20 से शुरू होके इस हफ्ते का कौन सा Paidan number 1 है. But I have to tell you one very funny story. You know, sometimes how words trigger funny images in your head. And I was very young. I was what, 7-8 years old. और जब क्रिकेट की कमेंट्री होती है तो उसमें ओपनिंग बैट्समैन को सलामी बल्लेबाज बोलते हैं. तो दे यूज्ड टू से कि भारत के सलामी बल्लेबाज सुनील गावस्कर और चेतन चौहान क्रीज में हैं. एंड आई यूज्ड टू थिंक द सलामी बल्लेबाज विल बी टेकिंग स्टांस लाइक दिस, बैट विल बी लाइक दिस. Why else will they be called salami ballebaj? So, I mean, later on I realized that what salami ballebaj was, but I was very young. So, lot of fond memories of radio. In my advertising years, I took lot of interest in radio because radio was probably the most challenging medium because you have to crack radio spots.
Yeah.
And some of my most memorable work in advertising also happens to be in radio. I have few friends who were RJs who became RJs. Even after doing IIT, he was doing a part-time RJ thing. So I'm aware of how the world functions. I was on CAN jury for radio also. So yes, very, very fond memories of radio spots.
चिल्लर पार्टी की सबसे खास बात भिड़ू थे. और भिड़ू, आई डोंट थिंक उसका नाम आपने विकिपीडिया में डाला है. कहाँ से आया वो द डॉगी? वो कहाँ से आए और कहाँ से आपको मिले, और फिर उसको भी कास्ट करना एक डॉग को?
या तो बाकी बच्चों की तरह आई थिंक हम लोगों ने भी कम से कम 10-12 डॉग्स, मैं ये नहीं बोल सकता कि ऑडिशन किए थे. 10-12 डॉग्स को जाके हम लोग मिले थे. और समवेयर बोथ मी एंड विकास, माई को डायरेक्टर, वी वर वेरी क्लियर दैट वी वॉन्टेड भिड़ू टू बी एक्सट्रीमली लाइकेबल. वी नेवर वॉन्टेड भिड़ू टू डू एनी स्टंट्स इन द मूवी. He just had to look very cute, you know, and he shouldn't. And we were very clear that he should not look like a proper grown-up dog, because then your heart will not go out to him. You know, he should look like he's in a, you know, what you call teens of dog. You know, and there has to be something which is very endearing about it, and desi breed for sure. Because जिस तरह फटका है ना, उस तरह भिड़ू भी है. वो भी बेचारा street dog ही है. You know, he doesn't come from a very special breed. And so yeah, after a lot of efforts, we found Bhidu, and the reason why he was called Bhidu is because it means friend, you know, in Mumbai language. So he was Fatka's Bhidu, and if you look at the backstory, maybe Fatka called him Bhidu. Fatka must have found him somewhere, you know, and he must have brought him with himself, and he must have called him Bhidu. So that was the reason why we called him Bhidu.
I want to know Jaggu Dada's reaction on this, but later I would love to ask you कि चिल्लर पार्टी के लिए the kind of love I felt as a, not just as a dog lover or as a children lover, but even storytelling. What is the best compliment जो आपको मिला है और आज भी मिलता है, क्योंकि वो film, it's eternal, it's beautiful.
The best compliment I still get is when some people come and tell me that out of all the movies I have done, Chiller Party is their favorite. You know, so I mean, I feel very happy because your first film will always be very special. You know, because there are a lot of apprehensions, there are a lot of doubts. You don't really know which way it's going to pan out. And when people still, you know, the most beautiful part about storytelling is that people don't judge your films by the box office numbers.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would remember what were the box office numbers of Chiller Party, but I think Chiller Party is still remembered a lot. And there's a Chiller Party fan club.
Oh,
yeah, a lot of kids who have grown up on
Chiller Party. I think you need to clap to that, because a movie that talks to you, gives you a message, and has a fan base, that's huge.
Yeah, the kind of memes which Chiller Party still continues to have. Yeah, that Jangia one, you know, where he's saying, you know, Bapu India ka wo bhai tha. That photograph goes into every kind of statement where somebody has to say something to somebody. So it just keeps on, Panoti keeps on floating, you know, Akram keeps on floating. These guys are just there.
If there is one character जिसमें आपको लगता है कि आप छलकते हो उन बच्चों में से, because I think to infuse them with that personality or character would have been tough. They really looked like they were those kids. You can't tell them apart.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was the trick in casting Chiller Party, because we realized, now that's a little tip I will give you when you are especially casting kids. Try and cast a kid closer to the personality which you are envisioning in your screenplay. It's going to be easier for you to get that person out of that kid. Because to expect a 7 or a 8 or a 9-year-old kid to completely perform out of his character is something which is very tricky. So if you look at all the kids, in Chiller Party, they are like that in real life, except Silencer. I'll tell you a very interesting story about Silencer. So Encyclopedia is actually Encyclopedia in real life.
Oh.
Yes.
No, मतलब
very
आपने
knowledgeable
आके उनसे पूछा, कुछ सवाल पूछे, उन्होंने जवाब दिया और आपको पता था यही बंदा है.
No, the thing is, what happens is that, casting is a very long drawn process. There is no one final round.
Yeah.
You start with going through almost all the faces which are available to you. Then you start shortlisting them. Then, especially with kids, I make it a point that I go and meet them personally. Because it is very important for me to get to know them, break the barrier of conversation. Once they open up to you, then you have to judge them whether they are taking the instructions correctly or not. In that process, you get to know the character of the kid very clearly. So Jangia, in Chiller Party, he is absolute badmash. He's a brat. Akram is a sports guy. Yes. So that is how we kind of kept on zeroing in onto choosing these characters.
कुछ बॉडी लैंग्वेज का कमाल होता है, कुछ आप देख के बोल देते हो कि ये सही बैठेगा.
Yeah, see, it ultimately it boils down to how confident they are, or when you interact with them, you judge them on the basis of whether they will be able to take instructions correctly or not. It just boils down to that. You will rarely find somebody who will go beyond the Call of Duty and surprise you. As long as they are following the instructions which are given to them, or you know a way to get it out of them, your job is sorted. But as I said, I was going to tell you an interesting story about the casting of this guy. So this would rarely happen. Not many directors would do it, but this is the kind of thing which we did in Chiller Party. We had shortlisted all the kids, and we were very happy with all the kids. But this one face remained there. Nice Rolu Polu kid with specs, always looking above the specs like this. And I was just trying really hard to see where this boy can fit, because there was no character which was doing justice to what he was there. And there came a point where we had to let him go. It was almost coming to that kind of decision. And I was saying, is there a way we can have this kid in the film? And in the night, I thought of something, and next day I went and met Vikas, and I told him, this is what I want to do. So we cannot rewrite the screenplay.
Okay.
Because we are sare dialogue set hai. I can't just include another character and change. So what do I do in the screenplay where I have an additional guy in the gang where I don't need to change the screenplay? I said, let's call him Silencer. Let him come, let him be there. So, and that also gave such a beautiful twist in the end, because he's the first guy who gets up and says when the minister is running them down in a talk show. So that automatically gave us a very beautiful start of the fight, the big fight which happens. So that's how Silencer found his way into the film.
But you do realize that God has his way of showing his love for you, because अगर इस फिल्म में आपने लोगों का इतना दिल जीता, इतना खूबसूरत मैसेज दिया, then Dangal gave you the biggest crossing film of Indian cinema. And please, I'd like you to clap to that, because I still remember, I know maybe I don't know if it's appropriate for me to say this, but I'm sure Amir sir will understand. He couldn't come for the interview. He was so stressed. He said, I locked myself in the parking lot, guys. I cannot come and talk to you. He called Salil and me and he apologized. And we said, sir, it's okay. It's all good. I just want to ask, while I say this, I get numb to think of what kind of dedication that man has. So my first question to you is, जब आप दंगल सोच रहे थे, तो did you cast the star Amir who can tell a story and win people's heart because you had a great message there, या आप उन actor को ढूंढ रहे थे? आप किस आमिर को cast कर रहे थे?
Not the star, but the actor Amir. Someone who's known to go to great lengths to do the role which he completely believes in. Yes, of course, star power is always an attraction, but I was looking for somebody who, apart from the superstardom, would be willing to travel that distance, which was required for the role of Mahavir Singh Phogat. So, when I was asked by Ronnie and Sid, he was the first name which came to my mind. Because I kind of in my head knew that, he would put on weight, and insane amount of weight he put on. He would go out of his way to learn wrestling. He would not hesitate in doing a script which is this edgy because it was not a commercial film. It was a very emotional film, but there is no way you can call Dangal at that point of time commercial film. On paper it never looked like a commercial film.
But आमिर जब एक फिल्म करते हैं तो उसको कमर्शियल बना देते हैं. So क्या एक पॉइंट था आपके लिए? Was it an added, like a edge for you, or did he help you with that, or how did that go about?
No, of course, star power always helps. I'll be lying if I deny it. The kind of draw and the pull which Amir sir has on box office is of course an added advantage. But let me just remind you that both Amir sir and me will always maintain this whole thing that we never made Dangal assuming that it would be such a big commercial success. We just made it purely because we believed in it, and we made it with a lot of love and conviction. In fact, Amir sir used to joke and tell me, कि तू अपने लिए कोई alternate career सोच ले, क्योंकि मैं तो weight loss सिखा दूंगा लोगों को. फिल्म अगर flop हो गई तो तू क्या करेगा सोच ले. So that's what he used to tell me.
Why is it so scary in Bollywood? I don't know if I'm right in saying this, कि हम लोग स्पोर्ट पे जब फिल्म बनाते हैं, और मुझे ऐसे लगता है कि तारे ज़मीन पर एंड लगान would have been big wins in terms of you having that connect with him as well as all of us did as an audience. इतना डरते क्यों हैं हम स्पोर्ट पे फिल्म बनाने में? एक डर है क्योंकि वो बनेगी नहीं बनेगी, अच्छी लगेगी नहीं लगेगी. There is a fear.
No, not in my head for sure. I think fear is justified in any genre. If you are not convinced about it and if you are not confident of telling the story confidently. Any movie which is made well, if it can find connect with the audiences, I think people will accept it. I mean, Chichore also had a lot of sports. So imagine, Dangal and Chichore came back to back. Therefore, we treated sports of Chichore very differently than the sports of Dangal. But there was a lot of sports in the backdrop in Chichore also. I never worried about that. You have to believe in the story. You have to believe that sports is gonna be a part of the story, very important part of the story. It's going to have its own graph, which is see, the biggest problem with the sports genre is that the arc always remains the same. How do you break the mold? How do you tell that story differently? Otherwise, it remains the same. That's why I have not done many sports biopics after Dangal, purely because I could not find any different arc in the stories. It would not have been challenging for me.
Is it right for me to say कि जब आप एक फिल्म उठाते हो उसमें आपके कैरेक्टर्स रियल लाइफ से इंस्पायर जैसे आपने कहा हो सकते हैं, पर उसमें male and female, it's a feminist film, but it's not a feminist film. I don't know how to say that to you, but there is an element of how you bring out the important messages for women folk.
Absolutely.
और ये, I mean, of course, as a woman, I'd like to thank you before I ask this, but ये कितना ज़रूरी है आपके storytelling में आपके लिए, and why do you feel for it this much? Where does it come from in your personal story?
I think there's always a part of the storyteller which reflects in the stories which he or she tells. You will never tell a story which you do not believe in. I'll be caught. So I think it's a part of my upbringing, I guess. It's a part of my value systems, which I kind of very strongly feel. And there are certain sections which I have very consciously removed in some of my films where I thought that I am not giving a correct message, and certain sections which we have added in the films. Like, say, for example, I'll come to the feminism bit of it, but it's never forced.
Okay, yeah.
I wrote Bareli Ki Barfi, which my wife directed. It's a hardcore women empowerment kind of film, although it's a love story, but the girl gets to take the call.
Yeah.
It's a nice, light-hearted rom-com, but it's a power of the girl, which is the thing. But in Dangal, when the wife says, "Main aapko chora na de pai," there was no need for that dialogue, but we want to, as much as possible, want to say that. Amir sir says that, his character says, "Isme teri galti to nahi hai." He takes the blame on himself, and then that's the thing which we want to break, because a lot of people believe, the boy and girl all is because of the. It's so wrong, So even in Bhootnath Returns, there was a dialogue which the kid says. So the kid, his name is Akhrot, in the film.
ये कहाँ से आया सर? ये
क्योंकि बाहर से टफ है, अंदर से सॉफ्ट है. So that's how his character. He also says that अपन अंदर से सॉफ्ट है, बाहर से टफ है. So that is why his name was Akhrot. I always look for interesting names, like Pritam Vidrohi. So, but his character in one part of the screenplay had this dialogue where Bachchan sir's character asks him कि तू स्कूल क्यों नहीं जाता है, because he doesn't go to school. and he justifies why he doesn't go to school. And it sounded cool because it was going with the character of a slum kid. It was going with the character of a boy who makes an earning by showing Dharavi to the Firang guys and stuff like that. But when I was at the final draft, I felt it is so wrong for a protagonist to say and justify dropping out of school. I am better off not having that line because it doesn't really make or break. It doesn't make him even any cooler. It's fine that if he's not going to school, but I don't need to justify it. So I dropped that line from the screenplay.
जब आप कास्ट करते हैं अब तक के आपकी फिल्मों की कास्टिंग में who have you enjoyed casting the most? I'm sure there are too many of those, but you know that in the casting process you must be involved at the last stage, sometimes at the initial stage. Where do you think you've enjoyed yourself the best, or who do you think has been your best cast till date? So you feel like, ah, that's me. Call her up.
That's a very tough.
At least give us a top 3 if possible.
It's a very tough one. I can tell you the longest I have taken to cast someone and the shortest I have taken to cast someone.
Okay.
It's very difficult to choose, you know, because all the characters are so dear to your heart that it's
जैसे आप बोलते हो ना कि हाँ इसको मैंने कास्ट की परफेक्टली बैठा, वो तो हो ही रहे हैं आपकी फिल्मों में, but just
most perfect. I think the process I enjoyed the most in Chichore
okay.
because I was trying to see people who I knew in on screen because those characters are all known to me. Yes, I was just trying to see, you know, if this can be a Sexa or that can be a, you know, Derek, or this guy can be an Acid, you know. So it was most fun, you know, because that was the most relatable part of the story which I have written. Most challenging casting was Dangal. You know, we took, I don't know how much time in casting everyone. I think one thing I'll tell you guys, you know, which is my learning from the first 2 films, is earlier I used to never pay attention to the characters which had 1 or 2 lines in the script. And in my first 2 movies, I kind of realized it somewhere brings down the impact because as a writer, you will give a punchline to a guy who only even has 1 line.
Correct.
But if you don't cast him rightly, that never lands. It never lands. So after that, poor Mukesh Shavra, he's been at the receiving end. He has to cast each and every guy who even has 1 line. So in Dangal, I think we ended up close to casting 160 guys, 120 to 160 guys. Anybody who had a line, anybody who had a reaction,
They were ready.
they were auditioned and they were casted. They were handpicked, auditioned and casted. I personally met so many people when I had gone to Punjab and Chandigarh because I just wanted to be doubly sure. इसका एक लाइन है, बावड़ा हो गया है महावीर सिंह, छोरियों को छोटे छोटे निक्कर पहना के छोरों के साथ कुश्ती करा रहा है. This guy also was casted. You know, everybody was casted. उनकी माँ ने भी तो मुंह में दही जमा लिया है. This woman was casted. Everyone was casted because otherwise that line doesn't really make that impact, you know. So that Dangal was the most long drawn casting because we had also made our lives difficult by having so many conditions कि हमको तो लड़कियों में ये सब चाहिए ही चाहिए before we cast them. And it was quite a long list of requirements which we had from our side. And that took a lot of time. That took the most time.
But the kind of, you know, the name you've made for yourself and the legacy you've already created, I think anybody would like to come and do a line for you. I open to the students for your Q&A. What would you like to ask, sir? Can we have the mic passed on, please? Anybody with the first question?
You guys are having a good time or not? Okay.
I have lots of more
Well,
questions.
I hate doing post-lunch sessions. Everybody is very sleepy. You know, like, so I always get worried. You know, my talk should not put you to sleep at least. Yes, please.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Arya Sang Shitole.
Audio visual में फर्क है.
Yeah, just
sorry.
take the mic closer, please.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Arya Sang Shitole. I am an aspiring filmmaker, and you've been a very great inspiration for me and many other people. So I have a question that will sort of help me figure out things in the future. It's a 2-part question, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
So, while writing a character, what are the most important things that come to your mind? And what is your style of working with actors to get your desired emotion?
Okay. So the first thing is that when I am writing about a character, let me go to probably not, like, which will give you a better idea, even if it is not the main character. It's very easy to write for the main character, you know. So the main character, when you write, you have to first start by writing his traits. I at least start by trying to say what is so different about him, what is it that I have not seen before. Have I seen this thing before, then I don't try to include it in. I always want to present something which is interesting, which is different. Something about him has to be different or her has to be different. Secondly, very important for me, all at least the main characters, which are usually 5, 6, 7 in your screenplay, what is their journey? They can't be flat. Everybody needs to have a journey. Everybody needs to have a relationship journey. There has to be a graph. If you do not have a graph, you are really not, doing justice to the character. So everybody has to have a journey. Up, down is up to you, but there has to be a movement from point A to point B. Thirdly, for the not significant characters, most important thing which I normally keep is what is the role he's playing or she's playing in the narrative. If I were to remove him or her from the story, will it really make a difference? If it's not making any difference, then why is that person there? Sometimes a person may not play a very important role in the storyline, but if that person is helping you to bring a smile on audience's faces, I keep it. I believe you make audience smile or laugh.
Like Silencer, for instance.
Yeah, you make an audience smile or laugh for once, they will forgive you for next 5 minutes. So I mean, I'm purely reacting as a viewer, because if I laugh in a film, I'm बाकी 5 minutes कुछ भी कर ले, forgiven. Then you get back to the point. So that is very important. The second question is that about performing with the actors.
Your style.
I normally give lot of free hand, but I am very clear about this is what I want. But if an actor value adds and brings something which is more than that, I incorporate it. I'm very free flowing. I don't have very rigid norms, my way or highway. No such thing. If somebody is actually bringing in something, if somebody brings in a suggestion, and if I like it, I adopt it. So that is something I'm very fluid about that, and I do a lot of prep. So that on the day of the shoot, I do not want surprises. I do not want an actor to come and say, I got a brainwave. No, we should have got all the brainwaves before we come to the floor. On the day of the shoot, we just shoot. We just shoot what we have agreed upon. All the differences, all the practice, all the modifications, improvisations, all them have to happen. But once in a while, you get a brainwave on the day of the shoot also, which is fine. But 99% you should actually prepare and then go.
Superb. Thank you for the lovely
Thank you,
question. Thank you. Who's next?
This girl wanted to ask a question. Yeah.
Very good afternoon to you, firstly, both of you. My name is Gungun Singh, and I'm just a first-year BMM student. And after listening to the conversation, like you mentioned, a few films like Chiller Party, Dangal, and Chichore. These films are one of my favorites, and I watch Bareli Ki Barfi how much I would like. I can never get enough of it. So I just want to know, like, when you make a film, right? And when it's like fully completed, what is your gut feeling about it? Like, do you still analyze to the characters, or do you still find a lot of improvisations, or you just go with that instinct ki, I have made this and this is beautiful and I want the audience to, get it out there. So how do you decide it? That is my question.
Okay. My answer may vary from answers of a lot of other directors. I am purely talking on the basis of my experiences. Normally, I get a gut feel. I'm talking about once the shooting has been completed and there is a lineup which is ready, I always find it very difficult to judge my own film, because I have lived each and every nanosecond of the film. I know exactly what is going to happen at what point. I have sat on individual scenes and edited them. So nothing comes as a surprise to me. All I am looking at is, can I make it sharper? Can I make it better? But I never managed to judge it. It's the same thing which happens with me when I'm doing ad films also. The films which I have written, I can find, and if a stranger comes and says, wow, this is very good, beautiful, and I'm like, I never reacted like that, because I know about it. I'm aware of the emotion. So what I normally do is,
You're living it.
I show it to people who are blunt to me, people who don't really give a damn whether I'll feel good or bad if they criticize me, because I need that at that point of time. Somebody whose judgment I trust and somebody who's blunt to me, which are usually my writers and my wife. you know. So they will come and give you a very honest opinion, you know. And on the basis of that, if I want to make some changes in my edit, I do that. I did that with Chichore. On the basis of their feedback, if I very strongly feel that I need to go and do a little bit of patchwork, a little bit of shoot, extra shoot, because what happens normally is what's on paper and what's in front of you is very different. A lot of times you don't realize that on paper you are repeating certain beats, but when you edit it, you realize, oh, I've seen this emotion before. Why do I need this? You remove that from the thing, although it's there on the paper. So, a lot of times you hit a blind spot when you've lived with the content for so long. It's always good to have a fresh perspective, always good to have an outsider's view on the content which you have created, and if you buy into it, excuse me, if you buy into it, you go and make those little changes, which I'm perfectly fine with. You know, it's nothing wrong in going and doing a little bit of patchwork.
I'm going to quickly wrap up, but before, I'm going to ask you quick questions, which I'm very curious to know.
Yes, please.
Writer, producer, director. सबसे ज़्यादा मज़ा किस में आता है?
Writer.
Has to be पहले से ही.
Yeah, I think writing is the most difficult. You know, it's very easy to sit and find faults with what somebody has written, but you know, you guys need to understand that the most difficult job is to create something out of thin air. You know, it's easier to direct it, it's easier to produce it because you already have somebody's creation in front of you. Then you just need to do justice to it. But writing is a very lonely process. It's a very scary process also. You know, I mean, I don't know how many of you write out here your own stuff, but you know, it's always you are very uncertain because how do you know what you're writing is going to connect with the audiences? How do I know as a writer when I am writing Chichore's climax where the protagonists are going to lose? You know, you are always worried, will the audience accept it? We have not seen our heroes lose. You know, what happens if audience doesn't like it? In Dangal, Mahavir Singh loses to his daughter. You know, now that's a scary scene to write. You know, you have not seen a daughter defeat एक तो daughter और father का wrestling match. ऊपर से बेटी ने बाप को हरा दिया. You know, it's such a scary scene to write, man. You don't know whether people will accept it or not. You go with your gut feeling. You know, and that's what makes writing extremely rewarding. And my heart always is with the writing, and I think it's the most difficult job.
सर जी, बरेली की बर्फी का वो डायलॉग हैप्पी बर्थडे जब भी आता है, वो कैसे आया आपके मन में? क्या था वो? हम लोग इतना हंसे हैं ना उस लाइन पे.
I've been asked this question by many people, and I don't know. Me and Sherry wrote it, and I genuinely don't know what. But I have to. I'm sorry. Can I take 2 more minutes? I have to tell you guys very interesting story about Bareli ki Barfi, and maybe that's where this dialogue came from because we changed the character, and that's how Pritam Vidrohi became. So initially, when we wrote, me and Sherry, my writer for many years, when we wrote Bareli Ki Barfi, it was set in Goa. The girl was an orphan. She was running a French restaurant which was given to her by her lieutenant father. And the rest of the story was the same, but the guy was into a printing press, but he was working in a printing press, and the other guy was a dentist. He was not a loser like that. So that is how the story was written. The gist was the same. Producers were very happy with it, and Ashwini was very happy with it. And somehow, you know, something kept on bothering me that maybe it can get better, maybe it can get better, maybe. So this is what I'm telling you, that please keep on trying till you're not very happy with something. You know, you need to be extremely convinced till the last minute. So one fine night, I was coming back after doing look test of Dangal. And I was in an auto. You know, from Royal Palms to Chembur takes 1 hour. And in the auto, I was thinking, maybe Goa is not our comfort zone. Maybe we have not lived our life in Goa. Maybe that's why we are not able to see the characters. Okay, I have lived a lot of time in my life in UP. What if we change it to UP? Why we have to keep it in this thing? Okay, if she is in UP, then she can't be an orphan. You know, it's going to be very difficult for her. So, माँ बाप आ गए. बाप आया तो फिर लगा कि बाप को कोई नॉर्मल जॉब नहीं देते हैं यार, बाप को इंटरेस्टिंग सा प्रोफेशन देते हैं, तो उसकी मिठाई की दुकान आ गई मेरे दिमाग में. ये सब ऑटो में हो रहा है, यू नो. और उसका हो गया तो फिर किताब का नाम क्या होगा, तो शहर का नाम हो गया बरेली और वो लड़की बर्फी है तो बरेली की बर्फी, किताब फिल्म का टाइटल आ गया ऑटो में. So I came back home at around 12 o'clock in the night. I sat for 2 hours on my laptop. I wrote 4 pages of revised draft. In the morning when Ashwini woke up, yeah. So in the morning when Ashwini woke up, I said, don't jump. Read these 4 pages. So she read the 4 pages. She said, it's lovely. Then I went to my producers and said, don't jump. Read. Because this whole screenplay was written. They also liked it.
भाई रामायण बना रहे हैं. Let's clap for the gentleman. We are so excited.
Thank you.
RK यश, मुझे लगता है उनकी मूवीज के बाद जहाँ वो बैडमैन की तरह दिखते हैं, आप उनका हुलिया पलट करना चाह रहे हैं, ऐसे कुछ है क्या?
No comments on Ramayana from my side.
But we love you for all your work,
Thank
sir.
you.
And your simplicity is beyond inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing with so much heart. I really am so pleasantly surprised, and I'm so grateful that you've spoken to all of us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Lots of love to you.
Thank you guys. Have
May
a
we
good day.
please have the plaque for sir?